going to go back to Job today. I just want to talk to you this morning or this afternoon. And this is the first day of April. And being true to what I said earlier, I wasn't going to ask what you were writing in your books, but I do hope that you are tracking your finances in those books. It's important. This is the 1st of April. I know for a lot of people it's April Fool's Day, but that means 1/4 of 2023 has passed. January, February, and March. 1/4 has passed. And I pray that all your house notes are made and car notes, of course, with this being April 1st, going into the second quarter, most of us have bills due. And if you got a mortgage, you know you might have a grace period up to the 15th, but if you can, get it in before then. I want to talk to you this morning because I know a lot of us have heard about some of the banking situations that have gone on, and we've been told by the Main Street media that everything is okay. I don't want to get into a whole lot. Well, everything is not quite okay. All right. I know that some people consider it good news. A distraction went on with the indictment of a former president. Don't pay too much attention to that. Keep your focus on the banking situation, please. I suggested to some in private that wherever you're banking, do a little research on where you're putting your money. I've also asked you to have somewhere that only you know about and start putting some funds there. And the fellas, I've shared some things with you, and I pray you're doing that, because I know a lot of times we feel like we're not listened to, we're not heard. But trust me, when it gets ugly, they'll be looking to you. The same people that joke about you will be looking to you, and they'll be looking to you to know what to do. And that's not the time to look at your spouse and say, well, what do you think? Because she's expecting you to have an idea at least. Things are about to get serious, folks, and I just don't want us to be caught unaware. And at the same time, I'm not being an alarmist. I am not a conspiracy theorist. But we need to make better financial decisions and make sure we have the basics covered. The dollar, some countries are already trying to divest themselves of the dollar bill. And we'll get into some scriptures. This is a part of life, though, folks. We're all charged as believers to be good stewards. We're also admonished to watch as well as pray. And now's the time to start implementing some of these things. Most of us know this by heart. 3 John 2, beloved, above all things, I wish that you prosper and be in health, even as your soul prosper. And we know, particularly in this church, everybody knows Luke 6:38 and things of that nature. And we had offering, which was wonderful. We had communion, which was wonderful. Francis has really been pushing for that. We thank her for her steadfastness. I'm glad she was here to partake. Why am I speaking to you about this? Because, saints, I see, and I hate even saying that in church. I'm not... I'm talking with you. I'm just speaking to you. Okay? I'm just wanting to remind you that it's imperative that we be wise with our finances. I know those. Some people commented that the books were so small, and that I got the books small so that you wouldn't have space to write, which would limit your spending. I didn't think of that, but if that works, fine. Social Security, Medicare, all of these programs are being looked at right now. And they're going to have to make some tough decisions, and they're trying to deal with the inflation and all of these things. I'm talking to you because these things affect all of us directly, all of us. Whether you're retired, whether you're thinking about retiring, layoffs are still happening. I confess to you guys, I spend too much money with one of the shopping networks. Well, I've worked on cutting back on that. In fact, I'm not. Well, I've kept stuff too long. I can't send it back. But I come to find out, I started opening up some of my packages, and this stuff don't work. And some of them, when you get it, you should open it up, make sure it works, because you got 30 days to use it, and you can send it back. Well, I bought this big unit that, and I got the solar panels with it and all, and they were talking about how you can go for days and days. And when my niece was having that ceremony over at Pocahontas Island, I was going to charge the thing the day before, and that I've had this thing for close to 2 years, and I had never opened it up. So the day before, I figured, well, I'll charge it up and go on in, and Deacon Greg let me use his, I call it a karaoke machine, and it worked admirably. But I'm in a quandary because that thing cost, I think it was a little less than $1,500. And I thought, well, hey, this would be great. And, I thought I was using wisdom, but you're not using wisdom if you buy something and just let it sit for 2 years. How wise is that? And now, because I've spent so much with this company, I'm going to send it back. Well, I'm going to call them first and tell them my sad tale of woe and see what they'll do. Because I can remember on a number of occasions where I had called in and I got tired of waiting. I hung the phone up. They called me right back. And so people was at my house and they got so tickled about that. They said, man, what kind of money are you spending? They go call you right back. They wanted to make that sale. And I'm saying that because their sister company had a mass layoff. So what is that telling me? That's telling me they hurting. And now they're going to be hurting even more because, I can't tell you to be wise and then I be a simp with my money. You know what I'm saying? And so, but I am now. I'm tracking in my book. I'm tracking in my book. And I'm not asking you what you wrote in your book. And I specifically said that I wanted everybody individually to have a book because I didn't want to start fights, because a spouse might look in the other spouse's book. That book is between you and your maker. So everybody that got one, that's between you and your maker, what you write in there. But I really got concerned, folks, and I don't want to call out any banks' names or anything, but I have a real sinking feeling that while it's being reported that, the government or the government, I'll just use that term, the government stepped in and, they're going to protect the people that lost money in that Silicon Valley Bank bailout. Those people that lost that money, they were all wealthy. I don't know if you know that or not. They were not middle class people like most of us. And this is not political in any way. This is just a concerned, working everyday person talking to other working everyday people or people that are retired. We need to do some investigating of our own. Now, I'm not talking about writing your senators and all your congressmen. I'm not talking about that. What I am saying is go online and look up your particular bank. There are banks that have been fined a lot of money for doing things that were not in the best interest of their customers. And some of us bank with those banks. I will tell you, I would that you get with a credit union as well as have one of the major banks or whatever. I would say that to you. And again, I'm not trying to alarm anybody. I just want us to know what's happening around us. And I know, yes, the Most High, He's going to take care of everything. Yeah, He will. We all know He can. But sometimes, saints, he's looking to see, well, he's not looking to see. He wants us to see just how involved we are in what this thing we call life. See, there's more to life than just going to work and coming to church. There's more to life than going to work and coming to church. And I'm here to tell you, even being good people, we can still be hurt. Check your banks. You know, you got to eat. We should enjoy life. I mean, with what we've been through, it's just been tough. We've done marvelously being there for one another. It warms my heart how we rallied around the Hawkins family. That was beautiful. And we're also learning not to inundate them. We're giving them space, and yet they know we're a phone call away, and that's beautiful. And I'm hoping that more and more of us are beginning to develop more appreciation for those of us that are still here. And now I'm talking about in your individual families. If you've lost both your parents, now some of your siblings may not pluck your nerves as much. Hopefully. Hopefully we'll be able to sit down and talk about some things that maybe we agreed not to discuss. Hopefully we've decided to start taking a little more time and looking at really where we are in life. People are still leaving here. And it could be one of us. You know, and again, please, I'm not morbid, but life becomes more and more precious. Not so much that I want to do more with my life, but yet I want to enjoy more of life too, and not have it always be in the same 2 or 3 areas, if I'm making any sense at all. It really does something to me because there's a lot happening that, there's nothing I can do about it. And there's nothing you can do about it except live a life to where you can be in the position to be of assistance some kind of way. It doesn't have to necessarily be just financial. It could be with some information. See, there's a lot of ways we can be more of a village. That seems to be the new term we like to use. And it's okay. I'm not throwing shade. You know, each of us, how can I be, more in my fellowship? How can I, whatever realm you're walking in, if you're a sister, how can you be a better sister? If you're a brother, how can you be a better brother? If you're a father, a grandparent, how can I be better? Not just better to make myself feel better about myself, but better that I can enhance somebody else's life. That's what I'm talking about. Maybe encourage somebody. Maybe do something nice for somebody that's having a real hard time with all this loss that's going on. Because some people they don't bounce back quite as fast as some of us can. If you haven't seen somebody in a while, and I'm not just talking about here. I'm talking about on your job, any organizations you belong to. I'm talking about people that are in your circle of influence. If you haven't seen one of them in a while, pick up the phone and call them. Or if you don't want to call, text them. Hey, how you doing? I got some calls this month, because I turned another year, and I responded to everybody, and I just told them, well, yeah, I feel old, and a couple of them wrote me back, said, well, yeah, you are old, but how you doing? And I got a chuckle out of that. But they really meant that. Yeah, we know you old as dirt, but how you doing? But they meant that. They meant, because it's nice when you're not just being polite, if I'm making any sense. Now, we should all be polite. But it's nice when you can be real. That's all I'm saying. It's just, and we want to be real in our circle of influence because that'll make it easier for us to be real when we come here. See, if everybody's trying to be politically correct everywhere, what kind of life is that? Hey, Donnie, come on, let's go to the country music festival. Well, he might not want to hear country music, but, he might not want to hurt my feelings. So he said, well, yeah, Barry, I'll go. And then he tells Sheila, look here, Sheila. That thing started at 8. 8:45, give me a call. Something happened to Deja. I'm just making that up. See, or you're at a restaurant and folks, we as believers, we tell lies sometimes because we don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. Case in point. Me and John out having dinner. He's buying. Now, my steak come. He having Chateaubriand. My steak come. Now, he's buying now. my steak comes, and it's not quite like how I want it. And then the waiter come over. Now, remember now, I know John is buying. So the waiter comes over, and he says, is everything all right? And what do I say? Oh, man, it's great. Why did I say it's great? Because John buying. I'm trying to show you something here. We lie sometimes to be polite, so we think. Now, the reverse thing about that, now there's a way to handle that situation. I should have said, well, you know, things are good, but this is a little, because please, folks, for health reasons, if you like your stuff well done and it come and it's still red, send it back. Just be polite when you send it back. Because when people are dealing with your food, you don't want to upset, you don't want to lie, but you don't want to be in your feelings, as the young folks would say, because we don't know what they do when they get that thing behind the door. And I tell you, I clean up, and I call them clubs, but they're really restaurants. And if you think that places like Ruth Chris, if they drop a porterhouse steak on the floor, if you think they're going to throw it away, no, they will not. And I shouldn't have called it, I'm just saying, they were just an example. But what I'm trying to convey to you is, particularly in these restaurants, a lot of the food that they give you the impression is homemade, it's not. The bags of soup that taste homemade, there's a company called Sunnyvale. That's one. And I mean, whatever you like. Chicken noodle soup, for those that like New England clam chowder. Those items come in bags. And a lot of the big name places, they have these big refrigerators. And I come in sometime and I look in there and I'm like, they have food prepared or 75% prepared days ahead. And we think we're getting fresh. What does all of this have to do with the banking? A lot. These layoffs are still continuing. Some of the guys in here like sports. Some of the ladies do too. And some of these major sports networks, they pay their commentators and sports analysts. Man, I would like to have that job. They're in trouble. There's a major sports network that's owned by Disney. And Disney's having problems of its own, and they're getting ready to cut ties. In other words, the companies that Disney has bought, they're going to let a lot of them work on their own. Jack Ma, I know a lot of you don't know who he is. He's a Chinese businessman, and he He's been gone for quite a while. Well, he resurfaced, and he owns a company called Alibaba. Well, he made some statements against the government of China, which you know you do not do. And he appeared yesterday, and guess what? He's going to be breaking Alibaba down into 6 smaller companies. And the government is going to have a stake in all 6 companies. And you say, well, Barry, what does that have to do with the United States? Same type thing can happen. But we just do it a different way. And again, I'm not making a political statement because you'll notice usually I use the term government. So it doesn't matter what party. The things that are about to come upon us is going to come courtesy of government. And that's why I told you, don't get caught up in this latest thing. And let me say this, because I know some people have a very visceral reaction when that person's name is mentioned. Let me remind you of this, that you do know in the scripture. Listen, do not rejoice at anybody's fall. Please don't do that. You know, and this thing about, you know, they getting what they deserve, be careful with that kind of thinking. Because remember, when they get what they deserve, we not far behind. Not me. I always do what's right. I never do anything wrong. I'm a romper room doobie, a doobie all day long. That's the mindset of a lot of believers. If I'm just good, everything gonna go all right in my life. No, it's not. And we should stop telling people that. We need to sober up. But Barry, that's unpleasant. I don't want to think about that. Okay, don't. And it may not even affect you, but it may affect somebody you really care a lot about. See, a lot of this stuff that's being shared with you, yes, it's for you, but it's for you to share with others too, because other people may feel the same way. I don't want to think about that kind of stuff. I just want to plant flowers and, you know, I want to go shopping. Nothing wrong with that. Well, my situation's secure. No, none of our situations are secure. You don't know, I own the business. So what? Industries go under. Well, I got a trust fund. So what? They can pass laws. And with the stroke of a pen, that trust fund can be gone. Anybody ever heard of the term bail-in? Anybody know what a bail-in is? A bail-in is that if your bank is in trouble, they can go in your account legally. You lying, Barry. No, I'm not. No, I am not. They can't do that. God won't allow it. Oh, really? Well, Barry, all of that stuff just happening over in those third world countries. No, it's happening worldwide. I do like this one. And all these things shall come on thee and overtake thee, if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God. Blessed shall thou be in the city and county, and blessed shall thou be in the field. Blessed shall thou be the fruit of thy body, and the fruit of the ground, and the fruit of thy cattle, the increase of thine kind, and the flocks of thy sheep. Blessed shall be thy basket and thy store. Jonathan Butler, for those of you that don't know, he's a jazz guitarist. He's got a song called Heal Our Land. And that's what we need to be singing. Heal our land. That's what the whole world need to be singing now. Heal our land. Of course, his was dealing with the situation in dealing with apartheid type stuff, you know. But we need our land healed. We need our land healed. Not just the United States. Worldwide need the land healed. If you own your home, ask that that land be healed. Some of the farmers, I know they be praying that the land be healed. It's serious. But it's, again, not trying to frighten anybody. But I do want you to put that in the back of your mind and just think about it from time to time. And if you didn't record anything first quarter, start today when you go home. Just start making a little note about it. And like I said before, when you get money and you want to spend it, make sure you get some value for it. Please. The 10 virgins, 5 had oil and 5 didn't. They were all good girls. Five had oil. 5 didn't. Fella come to town. 5 were ready to go. And of the 5 that didn't have oil, what did they do? They asked the ones that had the oil, let me have some. We all good girls. Mm-hmm. But when you operate and you good without wisdom, there's some consequences. See, good people without wisdom, we get taken advantage of. You go into business with the wrong person. You might get hooked up with the person that may not have had your best interests at heart. Yeah, you're still a good person. But we need to have a slice of wisdom every day, every day, every day. Get that loaf out and cut a slice. Even sop it with some gravy if you have to get it down, but get it down. And in using wisdom, it doesn't mean that you live a life of seriousness all the time. Yes, there are times for laughter in life. We need it. And then this one we all know. Blessed shall thou be when thou comest in. Blessed shall thou be when thou goest out. The Lord shall cause thine enemies that rise up against thee to be smitten before thy face. They shall come out against thee one way and flee before thee 7 ways. We know all of that. Mm. Mm. The Lord shall command the blessing upon thee in thy storehouses, and all that thou settest thine hand unto, and he shall bless thee in the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Deuteronomy. Mm. We are going to be all right in time, but there's a little turbulence coming. And I pray that we're all still of those that remain. Don't raise your hands. Has anybody thought about what your family's life would be like if you weren't here? Like I said, maybe it's never even crossed any of your mind. Anybody ever thought about, I'm sure we've all thought about, well, I ain't ready to go today. And Father, you know when I'm going. And I'm too chicken and won't talk to you about that. But I'm saying that because we need to make the time count. We know we're going one day, but let's do and let's be as helpful as we can do and be till that day comes. I was talking with my nephew this morning, and he was going over some family stuff, and I listened to him because I'm learning to do more listening and not always want to jump in with what I think is a solution. And I would suggest to all of you, try doing that more. Try do more listening. And then if they ask for your counsel or your advice, give it. But if they don't ask, then don't give it. Because sometimes you might not be right. It may be what you remembered. It might be the way you memorized certain scriptures, but sometimes that might not be what's appropriate for the situation that person is trying to explain to you. And long story short, I let him say what he had to say because, I love him too. But I did ask him, I said, look, I want to ask you a question. Why do you take things the way that you do. See, a lot of times people will say things to us, but it's up to you how you take it. Because sometimes what we think we get upset about, maybe they meant nothing by it. But I also shared with him a lot of times people will respond to you based on what you have been projecting. See, sometimes we'll say, well, Barry is negative. And that may or may not be true. But how do you approach Barry? See, we all have, for lack of a better word, we all have an aura about us. And certain people elicit certain feelings. But that's based on what you're used to receiving from them. I don't know if you all notice, people cannot get along not because they find one another unattractive or whatever. Did you know people cannot even get along just by the way their brains process things? Well, how do you see that, Barry? By what the person say out of their mouth. And vice versa, what I say out of my mouth to them. A lot of times people just assume that we're all of one like mind because we all go to the same church. That's not necessarily the case. Point is, all of us live different lifestyles. But we still all show up here when we can. And so we start assuming things about people that sometimes just not so. And getting back to the story. And so I said to him, I said, listen, man, let me ask you this. Do you think that everybody in your family has your best interests at heart? He said, well, yeah. I said, okay. Well, then why do you take things the way that you do? And young guys, I was explaining to him, I said, listen, prudent men think logically. Effeminate men get it real emotional. And when we get emotional, we do something, and I used the term, I said, we do something stupid. And so I began to share with him about some situations myself dealing with my family. And I told him, I said, when I know a situation can get me raw, I'm handing that off to somebody else because I don't want to do or say something stupid. And we all have to look at situations that are really, sometimes it's best to put some things on the back burner. I'm not talking about running away from a situation, because some people confuse that with, oh, well, they don't they won't, they're not confrontational. Some people are not confrontational because they'll knock your teeth down your throat. It's not that they think you're so wise that you'll stump them. They'll be like, look, let's put some space between us. I know that's the way men are. I don't, and I've run into some women that kind of got that too, particularly modern women. But just because somebody may not want to discuss something with you, it's not that they're afraid to discuss it with you. Sometimes it's none of your business. Sometimes the information you got is incorrect. But the main thing is they don't want to do or say something because then they're in their feelings. And if it's a man, usually he'd be like, let's table this. In fact, the fellas, the word is let's squash it. That's what guys will say. Let's squash it. And I've told this 100 times, and that's one of the best pieces of advice I gave my sister, who I love dearly. But I told her, if you're ever in a situation and you're having an argument, and this was before she got married, but I told her, particularly if it's a guy, if a man is trying to leave, let him leave. Don't force the issue. Even if you're right. Well, usually they think they're right anyway, but that was one of the best pieces of advice, because you don't want to get a guy in a situation that he's starting to get emotional. Because men, sometimes we won't handle it the best way. And I'm hoping my nephew will remember some of what I said. Well, I'm not worried about him physically doing anything, but it just disturbed me, some of the stuff that he shared. And I was like, well, bro, you just got to remember, sometimes those closest to you, they're reacting to what you've been projecting. See, we can't keep making bad decisions and then wonder why nobody gets excited when you come up with an idea. Because they're like, that's worse than the stuff you had last week. But we've been like, why can't people just be happy for me? Well, we will when you do something correctly. And I also share it with the fellas so that y'all won't think it's all anti. Ladies, I told the fellas, I said, listen, I see it, Reg. I'm going to be obedient. I said, you can tell when a lady is through with you, and I mean she's through, when she's not arguing with you, when she's calm and she seems to have it all together, you might as well pack your bags. It's over. But if she's still emotional about it, she still cares some. Hey, man, come on. I would get nervous. Well, I'm heading out. Me and some of the fellas, we going out. Okay, fine. I'm going for 2 weeks. Right. Have a good time. Hey, bro, you in trouble. She may not be there when you get back. Folks, I'm saying all of this because we really need to kind of learn how to read one another better. And that's all of this process of getting rid of the plastic, becoming more real, having real, candid conversations with one another. Because I'm telling you, we're going to need one another. And we're going to need to know that we know that we know that we're really there for one another. Even if I never been to your house for tea and cookies, that's got nothing to do with this. Even if you don't like me, I'm going to need you. Yeah, but I'm thank you. I notice you're the only one said it. Guys, again, I'm not trying to alarm anybody, but you know, all of us, most of us got maybe, if we're fortunate, maybe we got 2, maybe 3 o'clock in the morning friends, maybe. But wouldn't it be wonderful if we had a congregation of people that had one another's back for real? Now, it's not going to make things any easier, but it's kind of comforting to know some real folk care about you. It's down to two minutes. Folks, I tell you, I'm really concerned about our government. I'm concerned about our economy. I'm concerned about a lot. I'm not spreading fear. I'm just saying, please, let's be careful. Let's be careful. And I'm not saying you can't have a good time. I'm not saying that. And Lord knows we deserve some good days. We do. It's been rough. I'm going to close, and the next time I have the opportunity, we'll be going back to Job. But I just, please do that. Check on the bank that you got your money at. If you can, take some of that money out, get with a credit union. Start using those little books. Maybe you didn't the first quarter. And again, I'm not going to ask you what you wrote in it. This is for you. This is for your benefit. This is for your benefit. And if you don't, if that book too small, second quarter, a lot of places start selling those calendars at a reduced rate. But see, what they do is they wait till about June. They're a year half over. But it'd be worth it to you if you feel that book is too small. Get one you can write in. But if you get a big one, that means you plan on spending a whole lot of money. God bless you.